Imagine clocking into a 9-to-5 job, scraping by on a paycheck that barely covers the bills, feeling like wealth is a dream for someone else. That's what most of us believe, right? The common take is that millionaires are born rich, inherit fortunes, or land high-flying corporate jobs. But what if I told you that ordinary workers, people like a factory worker, a cashier, or a mailman, can become millionaires without a trust fund or a corner office? I've spent years diving into stories of everyday folks who turn their average lives into extraordinary wealth, and I've uncovered a pattern that defies everything you've been told. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 jaw-dropping stories of regular workers who became millionaires and show you the exact steps they took to make it happen. Johnny Pag, the factory worker who built a motorcycle empire. Let's start in the dusty workshops of California, where Johnny Pag was just another face on the factory floor. In the early 2000s, Johnny was in his late 20s, working long shifts at a manufacturing plant, earning just enough to cover rent and a few beers on the weekend. His life was predictable. Clock in, clock out, repeat. But Johnny had a passion that burned brighter than his paycheck: motorcycles. Every night he'd tinker in his garage, sketching designs for bikes that didn't exist yet. He dreamed of creating a chopper that regular guys like him could afford, not the overpriced Harleys reserved for the elite. But dreams don't pay the bills, and Johnny's bank account was running on fumes. He had no business degree, no investors, just a stubborn belief that he could build something better. In 2004, he hit rock bottom when his factory job cut hours, leaving him with barely enough to eat. Most people would have given up, but Johnny saw an opportunity in his struggle. He scraped together $10,000, every cent he had, and started Johnny Pag Motorcycles. His idea was simple but bold: make high-quality choppers for the average Joe, priced under $15,000. The early days were brutal. Johnny worked 18-hour shifts, welding frames himself, begging suppliers for credit, and pitching his bikes to anyone who'd listen. He was laughed out of banks and told his idea was a pipe dream. But then came the turning point. In 2006, a local biker club in Los Angeles spotted one of his custom bikes at a rally. They loved its sleek design and affordable price. Word spread like wildfire, and soon, Johnny's garage couldn't keep up with orders. By 2010, Johnny Pag Motorcycles was shipping bikes across the US and Asia, raking in millions. Today, Johnny's a multimillionaire, living proof that a factory worker with a vision can ride to riches. His secret? He didn't wait for permission. He built his dream with his own hands. Lisa Holloway, the cashier who sparked a snack revolution. Now let's head across the Atlantic to Birmingham, England, where Lisa Holloway was scanning groceries in a supermarket in the late 1990s. Lisa was a single mom in her early 30s, working as a cashier for minimum wage, barely making ends meet. Her days were a blur of ringing up items, smiling through exhaustion, and worrying about her kids' future. But Lisa had a hidden talent. She was a wizard in the kitchen, whipping up homemade spice blends that made her family dinners legendary among friends. One evening after a particularly grueling shift, Lisa hit her breaking point. She was tired of living paycheck to paycheck, tired of feeling trapped. She looked at the bag of plain chips on her counter and thought, I can make these better. That night, she mixed a batch of her signature spicy seasoning and tossed it onto some chips. Her kids went wild for them, and soon, her neighbors were begging for more. Lisa saw a spark of opportunity. In 1998, with just 200 pounds saved from her tips, she started selling spicy Holloway chips at a local market stall. The first few months were a grind. Lisa spent her nights mixing spices by hand, her fingers stained with paprika, and her days working the market while still clocking shifts at the supermarket. Rejection stung. Some customers called her chips too weird for the British palate. But Lisa kept tweaking her recipe, listening to feedback, and charming everyone with her story. The turning point came in 2001 when a regional grocery chain owner sampled her chips at the market. He was blown away and offered to stock them in his stores. That deal changed everything. By 2005, spicy Holloway chips were in supermarkets across the UK, and Lisa's company was exporting to Europe, earning her millions. From a cashier stool to a snack empire, Lisa's story shows that a simple idea mixed with relentless hustle can spice up your life and your bank account. Carlos Reyes, the mailman who built a real estate fortune. Our final story takes us to the sunny streets of Miami, where Carlos Reyes was delivering mail in the 1980s. Carlos was in his early 20s, walking miles each day through neighborhoods he could never afford to live in. As a postman, he earned a modest salary, enough to rent a small apartment and support his young family, but not much else. Yet, every day, Carlos noticed something: the for sale signs in front of rundown houses, the whispers of neighbors about property prices. He realized the wealthy weren't just living in these homes, they were buying and selling them for profit. Carlos had no savings, no connections, just a gut feeling that real estate could be his ticket out. In 1989, he hit a low point when his car broke down, and he couldn't afford the repairs. Instead of despairing, Carlos doubled down. He spent his evenings studying property listings, learning about foreclosures, and saving every penny. By 1990, he had $5,000, enough to buy a fixer-upper in a rough part of town. He spent weekends hammering nails, painting walls, and teaching himself plumbing from library books. When he sold that house for a $20,000 profit, it was like striking gold. That first sale was Carlos's turning point. He reinvested every dollar into more properties, flipping one house after another. By the late 1990s, he owned a portfolio of over 50 homes, renting some and selling others. Banks that once ignored him were now begging to finance his deals. Today, Carlos runs a multi-million-dollar real estate firm in Florida, employing dozens from his community. From carrying mail bags to owning mansions, Carlos proves that knowledge, grit, and a willingness to start small can build a fortune. What ties Johnny, Lisa, and Carlos together? They weren't born with silver spoons or Ivy League degrees. They were average workers, factory hands, cashiers, mailmen, who faced the same struggles we all do: bills, doubt, and dead-end days. But they shared 3 secrets to their millions. First, they found a passion. Whether it was motorcycles, snacks, or real estate, they didn't let failure stop them. Every rejection was just a step closer to success. And third, they started small with whatever they had and scaled up through relentless effort. Their stories aren't just inspiring, they're a blueprint. You don't need a big break or a rich uncle to become a millionaire. You need a spark, a willingness to learn, and the courage to act. So, what's your passion? What's the one idea you've been sitting on, thinking it's too small to matter? Here at Riches Reborn, we're all about showing you that wealth isn't reserved for the elite, it's within your reach. If these stories lit a fire in you, don't let it burn out. Subscribe right now. Hit that red button below and tap the bell icon so you never miss a story that could change your life. I've dropped some resources in the description to kickstart your journey. Check them out, share this video with someone who needs a push, and let's keep the journey of rebirth alive. See you in the next story.